The bank lobby smelled of polished wood, fresh coffee, and expensive perfume. Customers chatted quietly while tellers counted stacks of cash behind thick glass windows. It looked like an ordinary Tuesday morning. But for Daniel Brooks, nothing about today felt ordinary. At 58 years old, Daniel sat alone in the bank manager's office, staring at a thick pile of loan documents spread across the polished desk. His fingers rested on the pen, but he couldn't bring himself to sign. The bank manager, Richard Collins, noticed the hesitation. "Mr. Brooks," he said kindly, "I know this is a difficult decision, but refinancing your mortgage will give you enough time to get back on your feet." Daniel gave a weak smile. "I never imagined I'd have to borrow money just to keep my own house." Richard nodded sympathetically. Life had not been kind to Daniel over the past 3 years. His beloved wife, Sarah, had lost a long battle with cancer. Every treatment, every surgery, every hospital visit had drained their savings. Daniel never regretted spending every penny trying to save her. But after her passing, the medical bills kept arriving long after the funeral flowers had withered. To make matters worse, Daniel's small construction company struggled after the economy slowed. Clients canceled projects, suppliers increased prices, and work became scarce. Every month became a battle just to pay the mortgage, utilities, and insurance. His only child, Olivia, had begged him to move in with her and her husband, Michael Bennett. But Daniel refused. "This house," he always said, "is the last place where I still feel close to your mother." Every room carried a memory. The kitchen where Sarah baked apple pies every Sunday. The living room where they celebrated Christmas with friends and neighbors. The garden she spent years planting with roses and lavender. And the old, upright piano where she used to play every evening while Daniel sat nearby reading the newspaper. Leaving that house would feel like losing Sarah all over again. With a heavy sigh, Daniel finally picked up the pen. His signature slowly crossed the final page. Richard extended his hand. "Congratulations. Your loan has been approved." Daniel forced a smile. "Thank you." But deep inside, he didn't feel victorious. He felt defeated. As Daniel walked through the revolving doors of the bank, the afternoon sun reflected off the glass buildings across the street. He placed the folder of loan documents carefully inside his leather briefcase before climbing into his silver SUV. He hadn't even started the engine when his cell phone rang. The caller ID read, "Emma." Carter. Daniel answered immediately. "Hi, Emma." Emma wasn't just a neighbor. She had lived next door for nearly 15 years. After Sarah died, Emma often brought homemade soup, checked on Daniel, and even watered his garden whenever he traveled for work. She had become family. But today, her voice sounded different. It was shaky, almost frightened. "Daniel." "Yes? I hope I'm wrong." His heart skipped a beat. "Wrong about what?" There was a long silence before she finally asked, "Are you moving?" Daniel frowned. "Moving? Yes. No." Emma sounded confused. "But your driveway is full of movers." Daniel laughed, nervously. "You must have the wrong house." "I wish I did." Daniel's smile disappeared. "I'm looking directly at your house." His pulse quickened. "What exactly do you see?" Emma walked closer to her living room window. "See a large white moving truck parked outside." Daniel's fingers tightened. "Around the steering wheel, there are 4 men carrying furniture." His heartbeat became louder. "They've already loaded your dining table, your leather sofa, and Sarah's piano." Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. "My piano?" "Yes. The one Sarah loved." Daniel whispered. "That's impossible," Emma continued. "Now they're carrying framed family photographs." Daniel's breathing became shallow. "No, one has permission to be inside my house," Emma lowered her voice. "I thought maybe you had finally decided to move closer to Olivia." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not even home." "Where are you?" "I'm at the bank." There was another long silence. Then Emma whispered something that made Daniel's heart nearly stop. "Daniel, I just saw someone unlock your front door with a key." Daniel froze. "A key?" "Yes. They didn't force the door open. They walked in like they owned the place." Daniel's mind raced. Only 3 people had keys to the house: himself, his daughter Olivia, and his son-in-law Michael. No, Daniel muttered to himself. Emma continued, I didn't want to interfere if this was planned, but something doesn't feel right. Daniel looked at the dashboard clock. It would take at least 25 minutes to get home. Every second felt like an eternity. Emma, yes? Please stay where you are. I don't want them to know you're watching. Should I call the police? Daniel hesitated. If this was somehow a misunderstanding, he didn't want to accuse innocent movers, but if it wasn't, every minute mattered. No, he finally said, not yet. I'm leaving right now. I'll be there as fast as I can, Emma spoke softly. Be careful. Daniel ended the call. His hands trembled so violently that he dropped his car keys onto the floor. He bent down, picked them up, and started the engine. As he pulled out of the bank parking lot, another call came through. Olivia. His stomach tightened. He answered immediately. Dad? Olivia. Everything okay? He took a deep breath. Tell me something. Sure. Where are you? I'm at my apartment. Have you been to my house today? No. Did you send anyone there? What? Movers. There was complete silence. Then Olivia replied, Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Daniel swallowed hard. Does Michael know anything about this? He left early this morning. He said he had business meetings all day. Daniel felt a cold chill run down his spine. I'll call you back. He hung up before she could ask another question. For the next 25 minutes, Daniel drove faster than he ever had in his life. Traffic lights blurred past. Car horns echoed behind him. His mind replayed Emma's words over and over. Someone unlocked your door with a key. Who had done this? And why? Finally, he turned onto Maple Street. From the end of the block, he saw it. A massive white moving truck sat in front of his home. Its rear doors were open. His furniture filled nearly half the trailer. His heart pounded. He slammed on the brakes, threw the SUV into park, and jumped out before the vehicle had fully stopped. One mover walked down the front steps carrying Sarah's favorite rocking chair. Another carried a box labeled Family Memories. Daniel ran toward them. Stop. The entire crew froze. What do you think you're doing? One of the movers looked confused. Sir? That's my house. The foreman calmly pulled out a clipboard. We're just doing our job. Who hired you? The man checked the paperwork. Mr. Michael Bennett. Daniel felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Michael? His own son-in-law? At that exact moment, another car screeched to a halt behind him. Olivia jumped out and stared at the moving truck in disbelief. Then she looked toward the front porch. Standing there, holding Daniel's spare house keys in one hand and smiling confidently, was her husband, Michael Bennett. He looked at Daniel with an expression that sent chills down his spine. You're home earlier than I expected. Daniel stood frozen in the middle of his front yard. The afternoon breeze rustled the trees, but everything else felt eerily still. His eyes remained fixed on Michael, who stood calmly on the porch with Daniel's spare house keys dangling from one finger. For several seconds, no one spoke. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. What are you doing in my house? Michael smiled as though nothing was wrong. I'm taking care of things. Daniel took another step toward him. Taking care of what? Our future. Daniel's eyebrows narrowed. Our future? Michael nodded confidently. You've been struggling financially for years. You almost lost this house. I simply made a decision that had to be made. Daniel's voice grew louder. You had no right. Before Michael could answer, Olivia rushed between them. Michael, tell me this isn't what it looks like. Michael looked at his wife. Olivia calmed down. No, she shouted. I asked you a question. Why are movers emptying my father's house? Michael sighed as if she were overreacting. I was going to tell you tonight. Tell me what? That your father agreed to sell the house. Daniel exploded. That's a lie. I never agreed to sell anything. The movers looked at one another nervously. Their foreman stepped forward. Sir, we were hired legally. We have paperwork. Daniel held out his hand. Let me see it. The foreman handed him a thick folder. Daniel quickly flipped through the pages. His eyes widened. There, on the final page, was his signature. At least, it looked like his signature. He stared at it for several long seconds before shaking his head. This isn't mine. Michael folded his arms. It certainly looks like yours. Daniel looked closer. The handwriting was similar. The initials were almost identical, but there was one small detail. Daniel always placed a tiny period after the letter D in his signature. This document didn't have it. Someone had practiced copying his handwriting. Someone had forged it. Daniel looked directly at Michael. "You forged my signature." Michael laughed. "Can you prove that?" Olivia grabbed the papers from her father. "What is this?" Michael answered before Daniel could. "It's a property transfer agreement." Olivia's face turned pale. "You transferred Dad's house." Michael nodded. "I was protecting our family." "Our family," Olivia shouted. "My father is family." Michael's expression suddenly hardened. "He's drowning in debt. He can't maintain this place. The bank would have taken it eventually. I simply acted first." Daniel stepped closer until they were only inches apart. "You don't decide my future." Michael didn't move. "No, I improved it." Emma, who had been watching everything from across the street, walked over. "I knew something wasn't right." Michael turned toward her. "This doesn't concern you." Emma folded her arms. "It concerns every decent neighbor. Watched your workers arrive at 8 this morning. I also watched you unlock Daniel's front door. You acted like you owned the place." Michael shrugged. "Soon? Enough. I will." Those words sent a chill through everyone standing there. Just then, another moving worker carried a large wooden box toward the truck. Daniel recognized it immediately. Sarah's memory chest. Inside were decades of family photographs, handwritten letters, wedding albums, and the last birthday card Sarah had ever written before she passed away. Daniel rushed forward. "Put that down." The worker hesitated. Michael raised his hand. "Keep moving." The worker looked uncertain. Daniel grabbed the box himself and hugged it tightly. His voice cracked. "My wife packed this herself before she died." "No one touches it, even several." Of the movers looked uncomfortable. One quietly whispered to another, "I don't think this is what we signed up for." Suddenly, the sound of sirens echoed down the street. Everyone turned. A police cruiser stopped in front of the house. Officer Carlos Hernandez stepped out, followed by another officer. They approached calmly. "Who's Daniel Brooks?" "I am. We received a report of suspicious activity involving this property." Michael stepped forward confidently. "Officers, everything is perfectly legal." He handed them the folder. Officer Hernandez carefully examined every page. For nearly 2 minutes, no one spoke. Finally, he looked up. "Mr. Bennett, where did these documents come from?" "My attorney." "And who notarized them?" Michael pointed toward the signature. Officer Hernandez frowned. His partner leaned over to examine the papers. Then both officers exchanged a glance. "What is it?" Daniel asked. Officer Hernandez looked directly at Michael. "The notary listed on these documents passed away 9 months ago." Silence. Olivia slowly turned toward her husband. "You knew?" Michael's confidence vanished for the first time. I can explain." Officer Hernandez continued flipping through the folder. Then another document caught his attention. "What exactly is this?" Daniel looked over his shoulder. It was a medical evaluation declaring Daniel mentally incapable of managing his finances. Daniel stared in disbelief. "I've never seen that document in my life." Officer Hernandez looked at Daniel. "Have you ever been diagnosed with dementia or declared legally incompetent?" "Never." The officer turned back to Michael. "This doctor's signature is also being investigated in another forgery case." Michael took one slow step backward. Then, another Officer Hernandez immediately noticed. "Mr. Bennett, don't move." Michael suddenly turned and sprinted toward the backyard. "Stop!" the officers shouted. He jumped the backyard fence and disappeared into the neighboring properties. Officer Hernandez grabbed his radio. "Suspect fleeing on foot. Requesting immediate backup." Olivia collapsed onto the front steps, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand." "I trusted him." Daniel gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault." Across the neighborhood, police sirens grew louder as officers searched for Michael. But neither Daniel nor Olivia realized something far more terrifying was about to be discovered. Inside Michael's abandoned briefcase, left behind in the living room, investigators would soon find a notebook that revealed this wasn't just about stealing a house. It was the first step of a far darker plan. The flashing red and blue lights reflected off the windows of Daniel's house as more police officers arrived. Neighbors gathered behind yellow tape, whispering among themselves. No one could believe what had happened in their quiet neighborhood. Inside the living room, Officer Hernandez carefully opened Michael's abandoned leather briefcase. It contained a laptop, several folders, a flash drive, and a black notebook. "Let's see what you've been hiding," the officer muttered. He opened the notebook. The first few pages were filled with financial calculations, mortgage balances, property values, insurance policies, bank account numbers. Every page contained information about Daniel's life. Then Officer Hernandez reached the final page. His expression suddenly changed. "What is it?" Daniel asked. The officer slowly read the handwritten words aloud. Step 1, gain Daniel's trust. Step 2, get access to the house keys. Step 3, transfer ownership using forged documents. Step 4, sell the house immediately. Step 5, claim inheritance after Daniel is gone. Olivia's face turned white. What does he mean? After Daniel is gone? Officer Hernandez closed the notebook. We're going to find out. The investigation within hours. Detectives obtained search warrants for Michael's office, storage unit, and bank accounts. What they discovered shocked everyone. Michael hadn't simply fallen into debt. He had secretly borrowed over $700,000 from illegal lenders after years of gambling on online casinos and high-risk investments. When he couldn't repay the money, the lenders gave him an ultimatum: 30 days to pay, or lose everything. Desperate, Michael searched for the fastest way to get money. Daniel's house was worth nearly $1.8 million to Michael. It wasn't a family home. It was a way out. A darker discovery. The forensic team examined Michael's laptop. Hidden inside an encrypted folder were fake identity documents, forged signatures, and templates for property transfer forms. There was even a scanned copy of Daniel's driver's license and passport. Detective Lisa Morgan looked at Daniel. "Mr. Brooks, this wasn't his first attempt." "What do you mean?" She showed him several emails. Months earlier, Michael had tried to open credit cards using Daniel's identity. Fortunately, the applications had been rejected because some information didn't match. "If those had been approved," Detective Morgan explained, "you could have been left responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt." Daniel felt sick. He had welcomed Michael into his family, trusted him, given him house keys, even helped him financially several times. Now he realized every act of kindness had been used against him. The arrest 2 days later. Police received an anonymous tip. Michael was hiding in a motel nearly 200 miles away. SWAT teams surrounded the building before sunrise. Michael attempted to escape through a bathroom window, but was arrested without injury. As officers placed him in handcuffs, he quietly asked, "Did they find the notebook?" The detective simply replied, "They found everything." The courtroom 6 months later. The courtroom was packed. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: forgery, identity, theft, fraud, attempted property theft, financial crimes, conspiracy. Witness after witness testified. Emma described watching the movers. The moving company confirmed Michael had hired them using forged documents. Handwriting experts proved Daniel's signature had been copied. Computer specialists recovered deleted files showing Michael had practiced forging Daniel's signature hundreds of times. When it was finally Michael's turn to speak, he lowered his head. "I never planned for things to go this far." The judge looked at him sternly. "You didn't make one mistake. You made hundreds of deliberate choices. You betrayed a family that loved you." After several hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Michael to 18 years in federal prison, ordered him to pay restitution, and permanently barred him from handling financial affairs for others. After his release, Michael was led away in handcuffs. Without saying another word, Olivia watched silently. The man she had loved was gone. In his place stood someone she no longer recognized. Picking up the pieces, life didn't return to normal overnight. Daniel spent months repairing the emotional damage left behind. He changed every lock, updated his security system, froze his credit, and worked with attorneys to ensure every fraudulent document had been canceled. But he refused to let bitterness define the rest of his life. Using the loan he had taken from the bank, he renovated the house instead of selling it. The room where Sarah's old piano stood became a community reading room for neighborhood children. Emma volunteered every Saturday to read stories. Olivia, heartbroken but determined, finalized her divorce and slowly rebuilt her life. She often visited her father, helping him care for the garden that Sarah had loved so much. One evening, nearly a year after everything happened, father and daughter sat together on the front porch watching the sunset. Olivia looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Dad, I'm so sorry. If I had seen the warning signs sooner, none of this would have happened." Daniel gently took her hand. "My dear, people like Michael survive because they hide behind trust. You didn't fail me." She wiped away a tear. "How can you forgive after everything he did?" Daniel looked toward the blooming roses in the garden. "Your mother used to tell me that hatred is like carrying a burning coal. You only burn yourself. Justice has done its work. Now it's time for us to live." Olivia smiled for the first time in months. At that moment, Daniel realized something important. A home isn't protected by locks or walls, it's protected by the people who fill it with love, honesty, and trust. And while greed had nearly stolen his house, it could never steal the memories he had built there with Sarah. The house still stood. His family had survived, and together, they were finally ready to begin a new chapter.